The air in the ITV studios was a familiar blend of hairspray, cheap coffee, and the faint, metallic tang of anxiety. Nicholas Ralph sat in the green room, the cheerful yellow walls feeling oddly oppressive. He tried to steady his breathing, the way his acting coach had taught him, focusing on the physical, the feel of the tweed jacket against his skin, the slight starchiness of his shirt collar. The costume was a subtle nod to James Herriot, approachable, trustworthy, rural but smart, his agent, Jamie, had instructed. This was his first major solo publicity push since All Creatures Great and Small had become a national treasure, and Loose Women was a rite of passage. A daunting one. The show was famous for its sharp, often unpredictable dynamic, and its panelists, particularly Denise Welch, were known for their blunt, no-holds-barred approach. "Remember, the through line is the show, Nick," Jamie reiterated, pacing the small room. "The Yorkshire Dales, the animals, the healing power of the stories. Warm, nostalgic, British as a cup of tea. That's what they want. Denise, she'll sniff for a weakness. She's got a bloodhound's nose for it. She might poke at the sudden fame, ask how you're coping. Just smile, say you're grateful, and pivot back to the donkeys. Do not engage. You are Mr. Nice guy, not Mr. Controversy." Nicholas nodded, flexing his hands. He felt like an imposter. 3 years ago, he was an unknown Scottish actor scraping by in regional theatre. Now, he was the beloved star of the country's most cherished drama, his face on magazine covers, the subject of gentle national adoration. And a quiet, gnawing terror lived inside him, the fear that it was all a mistake, that they would see the real, flawed man beneath the Harriet cardigan and turn away in disappointment. A sound assistant clipped a tiny microphone to his lapel. Showtime. The walk to the set was a short gauntlet of overbright lights and echoing applause. The Loose Women panel was a recognizable semicircle of vibrant armchairs. Denise Welch, in a leopard print dress and already holding a large glass of white wine, though it was only 11:30 a.m., radiated a loud, performative energy. Ruth Langsford, Janet Street Porter, and Judy Love sat beside her, offering more measured smiles. They all greeted him warmly, but in Denise's eyes, Nicholas saw not just welcome, but an instant, predatory appraisal. Ruth, as anchor, began with soft focus. "Nicholas, welcome. We are all utterly smitten with the show. It's such a bomb, isn't it? Such a gentle, kind world amidst all the noise. Thank you, it's an incredible privilege to be part of something that brings people that sort of comfort," Nicholas replied, his soft Scottish accent deliberate and calming. He told an anecdote about a lamb on set that had taken a shine to him. The audience made the requisite, "ah" sounds. Then Denise leaned in. She took a sip of wine and her voice dropped into an intimate, confiding register. "It's truly wonderful, Nicholas. And you're just perfect in it. So unassuming, so genuine. It's a rare thing in our business. But you know what I sometimes wonder, watching you." She paused for dramatic effect. "The pressure. The monstrous pressure that must be on you. 1 minute you're a boy from the Highlands, the next you're a national treasure. All those eyes on you, all those expectations. Don't you ever feel like you're not just playing a vet, but, well, an icon of innocence that everyone's desperately clinging to? Doesn't that feel like an unbearable weight?" The question was wrapped in concern, but it had a blade. It asked not about the role, but about his psyche, the chasm between the person and the persona. Nicholas felt a chill trace his spine. I try not to think of it in those terms," he began carefully. "I just focus on being truthful to the story. As for the attention, yes, it's new. But the people around me, the crew, they keep me grounded." Of course," Denise said, waving a hand as if swatting away his humility. "But I know this business. It eats nice guys like you for breakfast. It demands you be lovely, be the comfort. But what if you don't feel lovely, Nicholas? What if you have a bad day? An angry day? Do you have to shove it all down because Nick the vet can't have those feelings? Doesn't it feel like this role has become a gilded cage for you?" The studio quietened. Janet Street Porter raised an eyebrow. Ruth Langsford tried to interject. "I think Nicholas shows us you can be a decent person and not have to." But Denise wasn't listening. Her gaze was locked on Nicholas, and he saw in it not empathy, but the curiosity of a collector about to pin a butterfly. She had scented his quiet anxiety, his insecurity, and was now digging straight towards it. "It's not fair on you, is it?" She pressed, her voice growing louder, more theatrical. Everyone wants you to be their antidote to reality. But you have your own reality, don't you? Your own demons. I read an old interview where you mentioned periods of dark thoughts before you landed this role. What were those about, Nicholas? What do you think about now, when the cameras stop and you're alone? Don't you ever want to scream at all these people, leave me alone? I'm not your savior. Nicholas sat, paralyzed. She had dragged out his most private self, an old, incautious admission in a small theater magazine he'd long forgotten. And now she was demanding he dissect his vulnerability here, for the entertainment of morning television. This wasn't an interview. It was a public vivisection. The blood drained from his face. He saw Jamie off camera, making a frantic, calm down, gesture by patting his own wrists. But calm was gone, replaced by a wave of burning shame and anger. My personal struggles are not relevant to my work, he managed, his voice hoarse, unactorly. And I don't think this is an appropriate forum for. But it is your work, darling. Denise interrupted, her tone now almost maternally pitying, which was even more humiliating. Your work is to be a symbol. And I'm just worried about you. They've put you in this beautiful, pristine little box, and now you can't get out, even if you wanted to. Don't you feel trapped? The question hung in the air, poisonous and precise. Because in the darkest corner of his soul, in the 3 a.m. wakefulness, he did feel it. He felt trapped by expectation, trapped by an image that was larger and purer than he could ever be. He looked at her smug, expectant face, at the wine glass in her hand, at the avid eyes of the other panelists, and something inside him broke. Not quietly, but with a loud, internal snap. He slowly stood up. His movements were unnaturally smooth, like a man in a trance. You want to know what I feel trapped by, Ms. Welch, he said, and his voice, usually so gentle, acquired an unexpected, steely firmness. I feel trapped by this. By the idea that to talk about my work, I must allow a stranger to rifle through my private life, to put my old pains on display for your amusement and call it concern. You are not concerned for me. You are looking for a crack. You want me to crumble on your stage because it makes good television. And you know what? He took a step forward, and his tall, lean frame suddenly seemed imposing. I'm tired of it. I am here to talk about a series one love, about the people I work with, about the beauty of the stories we tell. Not to feed your appetite for cheap drama. The studio was frozen in shocked silence. Denise Welch's face was a mask of outraged disbelief. I was just asking an honest question. From a place of care. No, Nicholas countered coldly. You were conducting amateur psychoanalysis on live television to prove there must be something rotten under the pretty wrapping. Because otherwise, it's not interesting to you. Because your only idea of real is suffering and scandal. And kindness, real, uncomplicated kindness, it frightens you. You can't pin it down. He turned to Ruth Langsford. Ruth, I apologize. Thank you for having me. Then he turned to the camera, to the unseen viewers. His face was pale but resolute. And to you, thank you for loving the show. That love is real. And it matters more. He unclipped the microphone from his lapel. He didn't drop it, he placed it carefully on the seat of his chair. Then he turned and walked off the set. He didn't run, he didn't hurry. He exited with a dignity that, in that moment, was more powerful than any shout. Denise Welch found her voice first. Well, there you have it. The sensitive soul can't handle a little truth. But her voice rang hollow and too loud in the ringing quiet. The red, on-air, light died, cutting to a manically cheerful yogurt advert. Backstage was chaos, but to Nicholas it was muffled, as if he were underwater. He walked down the corridor, and Jamie appeared at his side, pale as parchment. Good God, Nick, car at the loading bay. Now, the agent muttered, trying to simultaneously steer him and answer the phone buzzing like an angry hornet in his pocket. Their path was blocked by a senior producer, a man with rumpled hair and a headset. Mr. Ralph, you can't just, we were live. Come back, we can salvage this, give you a right to reply. Nicholas looked at him. His gaze, usually so open, was empty and cold. No, we can't. You allowed this. You know what she's like. You counted on it. He sidestepped the producer and kept walking. From the studio, Denise's voice carried, having shifted into loud, wounded justification. just trying to get to the heart of the person. That's my job. He's too fragile for this business. The loading bay doors led to a grimy alley where a car waited. Nicholas slid into the back seat, and only when the door thudded shut, sealing off the world's noise, did he allow himself to tremble. It was a fine, icy tremor that came from his very core. Jamie, beside him, stared at his phone screen. It's everywhere. They're editing the clip already. All creatures' heartthrob loses it. Ralph walks off loose women after Welch clash. Your mentions, they're exploding. Turn it off, Nicholas said quietly, watching the London streets slide by. He felt not rage, but a hollowed-out exhaustion. And a strange, aching relief. The mask had cracked. Now they would all see the flaw. It was terrifying, and yet, freeing. Nick, listen, Jamie began, shifting into crisis management mode. We put out a statement. That you respect the right to ask questions, but felt personal boundaries were severely overstepped, and chose to remove yourself. That you remain focused on your work and are grateful to fans. No attacks on Denise. No apologies. No statement, Nicholas said, not turning. What? I said what I wanted to say. In there, on air. That's all that needs to be said. Not another word. Jamie groaned. They will crucify you. They'll say you're a diva, that you can't handle scrutiny. Let them, Nicholas replied. His own phone vibrated. A message from his co-star, Rachel Shenton, just saw. You were magnificent. So proud of you, X. Another, from Samuel West, who played Siegfried Farnan, a man of the old school. Steady on, old chap. Some hunt for sport. You did the right thing. Call if you need a drink. These messages meant more than any headline. He wasn't alone. Yet, the storm was building. Denise Welch, never one to miss the last word, had taken to social media before the show had even finished. Her post was a masterclass in manipulative framing. Shocked and saddened by it, Nicholas Ralph's reaction today was asking questions from a genuine place of concern about the pressure on young stars. Seems wanting to protect mental health is seen as an attack by some. Hope he has proper support around him. #loose women #mental health matters. The mental health hashtag was a stroke of cynical genius. She positioned herself as the victim, the caring adult scolded by a petulant child. Her online army picked up the narrative. But slowly, over the course of the day, a different response began to emerge. Not from the tabloids, but from ordinary viewers. Posts like, finally someone told that woman to back off, he was defending his right to privacy, not losing his cool, watched it and cried. He looked so vulnerable and she was picking at a scab. So proud of him. A hashtag began to trend, #leave Nick alone. The most powerful blow came from a mental health charity Nicholas quietly patronized. They released a dry, pointed statement. Discussions around mental health require empathy, consent, and boundaries. Publicly pressuring someone to disclose personal struggles against their will is the opposite of support and can cause real harm. We support everyone's right to decide how, when, and with whom they share their personal story. It was a slap to Denise Welch's rhetoric, couched in policy language. Her narrative was unraveling. Meanwhile, Nicholas returned to his rented London flat. He silenced Jamie's phone and turned on his personal one. He texted his parents in Scotland a brief, "All fine. Love you." Then he lay on the sofa and just stared at the ceiling. He waited to feel shame, panic. He felt only a deep fatigue and that unfamiliar freedom. He was no longer Nick the vet, the flawless symbol. He was Nicholas Ralph, who had just potentially torched his career defending his own humanity. And, to his surprise, he didn't regret it. In the evening, he finally looked online. He saw the edited clip. His exit didn't look hysterical, it looked like an act of quiet, unassailable protest. The contrast between his measured, precise words and Denise's subsequent bluster worked in his favor. And then he saw something else. Fans of the show, particularly older women who were its bedrock, were flooding the ITV complaints department and the show's sponsors with angry messages about the bullying of their favorite actor. They called Denise a bully and brutal. To them, Nicholas wasn't just an actor, he was a conduit to the kind, honest world they loved. Attacking him was attacking that world. The next day, Jamie, calmer now, came to see him. You won't believe it. The ratings for that segment are through the roof, but the sentiment, it's terrible for the show. Sponsors are twitchy. And for all creatures, he shook his head with a disbelieving smile. Pre-orders for the new series on the streaming service are up 300% since the incident. People want to support you. The channel is in a panic, but a good panic. They want you on this morning for a gentle, reconciliatory chat. Smooth things over. Nicholas shook his head. No chat. I'm going back to Yorkshire. We start filming next week. But, Nick, we need to somehow. No, Nicholas repeated, softly but firmly. I don't need to, somehow. I spoke. I left. Now I work. He stood and began packing a small hold-all. The world outside still buzzed with the scandal, but here, in this room, the decision was made. He would not apologize. He would not do a friendly chat to make everyone feel better. His silence, his return to work, would be his answer. A week later, as he stepped off the train at the small station in the Yorkshire Dales, the familiar damp chill and smell of grass hit him. Crew members, from electricians to makeup artists, shook his hand, clapped his shoulder. No one mentioned the scandal directly. But in their eyes was respect. Not for the star, but for the man who had drawn a line. The first day of filming was a simple scene, James Harriet helping a cow give birth. Mud, lowing, focused work. When the director called, cut, Nicholas, wiping his hands, felt someone approach. It was the old, local veterinary consultant, a real retired vet who had been on the show from the start. The man poked a blunt finger into Nicholas's chest. Heard about that business WI, the loud woman, he grunted, his Yorkshire accent thick as peat. Nicholas stiffened. Oh. The old man nodded, his eyes, narrowed by wrinkles, glinting. Good job. Some folk, like some stubborn sheep, need a firm tap to be told. You tapped her. Rightly so. He turned and ambled off, muttering about checking on the calf. And in that moment, standing in the mud of the filming pasture, the biting wind in his face, Nicholas Ralph smiled properly for the first time in days. He wasn't broken. He wasn't exiled. He was home. And Denise Welch and her talk show were back in that distant, noisy, artificial world that no longer held any power over him. The crack in the mask had revealed not weakness, but steel. And that, he realized, was far more interesting than any manufactured television drama.